My fiancé cheated with my best friend and stole my entire wedding. But when I discovered who set them up behind my back, the confrontation ended with arrests, and now they're all destroyed and trapped in a miserable marriage they never expected. I'm 27 years old. I work in human resources for a pretty big company, and I make good money. Honestly, and I need to tell this story because I literally feel like if I don't get it out of my system, I'm going to explode. What happened a few months ago basically destroyed my relationship with my mother, with my best friend since childhood, and with the guy I was going to marry, all at the same time. And when I say it was a massive betrayal, I'm not exaggerating, even a little bit. I guess I should start at the beginning. I mean, with my family. My father, Joseph, left us when I was like 2 years old. He had slept with someone in college and basically decided he didn't want to be a dad, never was in my life again, never paid child support, nothing. So I grew up just with my mom, Beverly, who's 49 now. And it was always weird because she was never exactly maternal with me, you know? Like I always felt I was more of a burden than a daughter. But when you're a little girl, you don't fully understand these things. You just know something isn't right, but you can't put it into words. The thing is that when I was like 6 or 7 years old, a family moved in next door with a girl my age named Samantha. And that's when everything got even weirder. Samantha and I became best friends immediately. We spent all our time together, slept over at each other's houses, shared clothes, all that childhood best friend stuff. But my mom literally became obsessed with her. And not in a nice way, like, how nice that my daughter has a good friend, but in a way like, this girl is better than my own daughter in every way. Beverly treated her better than me, bought her things she never bought me, constantly praised her while criticizing me for everything, and me being a kid thought it was normal, and that maybe I wasn't good enough, and that's why my mom preferred Samantha. And we grew up like that for years, with my mom basically emotionally adopting Samantha while I was invisible in my own house. When middle school and then college came around, Samantha and I were still close friends, but I had already internalized that my mother was never going to love me the way I needed, so I basically stopped trying to have a real relationship with her. I focused on my studies, got a good job after graduating, and honestly thought I had made peace with that whole childhood situation, like I was an adult now, and could move forward without needing Beverly's approval. All of this brings me to like 3 years ago, when I met Lucas on a dating app. He was 20 at the time. I was 24. He worked at a bank in an entry-level position like teller or something. And honestly, at first I wasn't sure about dating someone younger because I thought maybe we wouldn't be at the same life stage, but he was super attentive and romantic and convinced me to give him a chance. We started dating and things were going well, I guess. Although, looking back, there were signs I should have seen, but I was too into the relationship to notice them. One of those signs was that Lucas was always kind of short on money. I made way more than him, obviously, because my HR job pays pretty well, and his was basically minimum wage, and I ended up paying for most of our dates, our outings, basically everything. He always had some excuse, like his rent was expensive, or he had college debt, or his family needed help, and me being the idiot I was thought I was being a good girlfriend by supporting him financially while he got established in his career. How naive I was, seriously. After 2 years together, Lucas proposed to me. And here comes something important I need to admit because it's relevant to everything that happened after. I wasn't sure I wanted to marry him. The truth is, I said yes, because I felt like we'd been together long enough, and it was the logical next step. Not because I was desperately in love or couldn't imagine my life without him. But I accepted the ring, which, by the way, I ended up helping pay for because he didn't have enough money saved for the type of ring I wanted, and we officially got engaged like a year ago. When we announced the engagement, something weird happened. My mom, Beverly, who had been more or less distant from me for years, suddenly wanted to be super involved in my life again. She called me often, wanted to help with wedding planning, acted like we were close mother and daughter when we really never had been. I was confused, but also, I don't know. Maybe part of me wanted to believe that finally my mom was trying to build a relationship with me. That better late than never. You know? So I let her in, told her about my wedding plans, showed her the dresses I liked, talked about the venue I had chosen, everything. I had chosen this beautiful place for the ceremony, had the menu planned with this specific catering I loved, had designed the invitations with a very particular color theme I liked, and Beverly knew every detail because I had told her everything. I had also told her that Lucas and I were planning to go to Italy for our honeymoon. I had been saving for that for months because obviously Lucas didn't have the money to contribute much. Samantha also knew all these details because we were still best friends and she was going to be my maid of honor, so I told her absolutely everything about the planning. Then we get to like 4 months ago, and Lucas suddenly got weird. He stopped responding to my messages as quickly as before. He was always busy when I wanted us to see each other. And when I asked him what was wrong, he told me he was stressed about work or that he needed space to think about the wedding because the commitment made him nervous. I thought maybe he was having pre-wedding panic syndrome or something. I tried to be understanding and give him his space, but something in my stomach told me there was more to the story. And then one day I'm browsing social media. I think it was a Saturday afternoon, and I see that a mutual acquaintance has posted photos from a wedding. I start looking at the photos because I like seeing weddings, and suddenly I realize something that freezes my blood. I recognize the place. It's the exact place I had chosen for my wedding. I keep looking and the color theme is identical to mine. The invitation style that appears in the photos is practically copied from what I had designed. Even the damn cake looks like the one I had chosen. And then I get to the photos of the bride and groom, and I almost dropped my phone. It's Lucas, my fiancé Lucas. And he's standing at the altar with Samantha, my best friend Samantha, getting married, with my wedding plans, at the place I had chosen, with everything exactly as I had designed it. I couldn't breathe. Seriously, I felt like someone had kicked me in the stomach hard. I sat there on my couch looking at those photos, trying to process what the hell I was seeing, because it made no sense. Literally 0 sense. When had this happened? How had I not found out? How long had they been together behind my back? Why hadn't anyone told me anything? Like 2 hours later, Lucas sends me a text message. A text message. He didn't even have the guts to call me or come see me in person. The message said something like, "Catherine, I'm so sorry but I can't continue with this. Your mom introduced me to Samantha a few weeks ago and we fell in love. Forgive me, but I'm going to cancel our engagement. I hope you can be happy for us." And I just stood there reading that message over and over because the words, "Your mom introduced me to Samantha," were bouncing around in my head nonstop. My mom, my own mother, had gotten my fiancé together with my best friend, behind my back, and they had used my wedding plans, the place I had chosen, everything I had planned for months, for their own wedding. And they had gotten married. They had already gotten married. It wasn't that they were dating or considering being together. No, they had gone straight to the altar. I tried calling Lucas, but he sent me straight to voicemail. I tried calling Samantha, and same thing. I called my mom and she answered all casual like nothing was happening, and when I screamed at her asking what the hell she had done, she told me she didn't know what I was talking about. I told her I had just seen photos of Lucas and Samantha's wedding, and she went quiet for a moment and then said, "Oh, well, they looked so good together, Catherine. I thought you'd be happy that 2 people you love found love." Happy? Happy? I hung up on her before saying something I couldn't take back. Turns out Lucas and Samantha had literally gone to Italy for their honeymoon. To Italy. The exact place I had planned for my honeymoon. They had taken my life, my plans, everything I had dreamed of, and simply stolen it for themselves with my own mother's help. And the worst part is that when I tried to talk to some friends about what happened, several admitted they had been at the wedding but hadn't told me anything because they thought I already knew and had given my blessing or something, because Beverly had told them I was okay with everything. My mother had been telling people that I knew and approved of this situation. Like 2 weeks went by and I was devastated, missing work, crying constantly, unable to process the magnitude of the betrayal. And then my phone rings and it's Beverly. I answer thinking maybe she's going to apologize, that maybe she finally realized how horrible all of this had been. But no, she was furious. Furious with me. She starts screaming at me on the phone saying I had ruined Samantha's life, that I was a horrible and selfish person, that how dare I hide from Samantha that Lucas had no money. And I was like, what? Turns out that on the honeymoon in Italy, Samantha had finally realized that Lucas was completely broke, that he had no savings, that he basically lived paycheck to paycheck, and that she had assumed I had money because I always talked about all the things we did together without mentioning that I was paying for everything. Beverly screamed at me for like 20 minutes saying I had deliberately sabotaged Samantha by not warning her that Lucas was a freeloader, that I was vindictive and bitter. that I had always been a problematic daughter, and now I was trying to ruin Samantha's happiness out of pure envy. I tried to explain that I had no idea they were going to be together, that they had literally betrayed me and stolen my wedding plans, but she kept insisting it was all my fault. Eventually, I hung up on her because I couldn't take her screaming anymore. The thing is that now Samantha was trapped in a marriage with a guy she thought was financially stable but who actually didn't have a penny. And apparently she had spent all her savings on the honeymoon in Italy, expecting Lucas to contribute half. But he had to admit he had no money to contribute anything. Beverly was desperate, because her precious Samantha had made a mistake, and in her twisted mind, this was somehow my fault. Like a week after that call, Lucas shows up at my door, ringing the doorbell insistently at 11 at night. I open it, first sign I'm an idiot. I should not have opened it, and there he is with his eyes all red like he'd been crying, and he starts with this speech of, "Catherine, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I love you. I've always loved you. Samantha manipulated me. Your mom manipulated me. I was just confused. Please forgive me. We can try again." And I just stood there in my doorway, listening to this pathetic speech, and all I could think was, this guy seriously thinks I'm going to take him back after he married my best friend using my wedding plans? I asked him if he had divorced Samantha, and he got all nervous and said no, that divorce was complicated and expensive, but he was going to do it eventually, that he just needed time. I told him to leave and never come back. And when he tried to keep begging, I literally closed the door in his face and locked it. What I didn't know was that this visit from Lucas was part of a bigger plan. Because the next day my mom calls me again, but this time her tone is completely different. Now she's all sweet and regretful, saying she had made a terrible mistake, that she just wanted Samantha to be happy but had gone too far, that I was her daughter and she loved me. All this emotional garbage she had never told me in my entire life. I asked her about the sudden change in attitude, and after pressing her a bit, she admitted that Samantha had told her she was going to cut contact with her if she didn't fix things with me and get me to forgive Lucas. Basically, Samantha wanted me to take Lucas back so she could get out of that marriage without looking like the bad guy, and Beverly was willing to do whatever it took to keep Samantha happy, even pretend she cared about her own daughter after years of favoring the neighbor over me. I told Beverly it wasn't going to happen, that Lucas and Samantha had made their bed and now had to lie in it, and that I wasn't going to make things easy for them. Beverly changed her tone immediately again, went back to the screaming and accusations, told me I was cruel and heartless, and I simply hung up on her and blocked her number. I thought that would be the end. But I mean, when your life is already total drama, apparently the universe decides it can still get worse. Like 2 days later, a Tuesday afternoon, I'm at home working from home because I had a virtual meeting, and someone knocks on the door aggressively. I go to open it because I think it's a package or something, and there are Samantha and Lucas, both of them, standing at my door. Samantha looks furious, like I'd never seen her so angry, and Lucas looks scared, and like he'd rather be anywhere else. Before I can say anything, Samantha pushes into my house, pushing me aside, and Lucas follows her nervously. I close all the door, because I don't want my neighbors to see this, and I ask them what the hell they think they're doing. Samantha starts screaming that I owe her money, that the wedding she and Lucas had cost like $30,000. My wedding plans were expensive, I admit, but I had been saving for months, and that now she was stuck with all that debt because Lucas had no money to contribute anything, and that I should pay because technically they were my wedding plans that she had used. This woman's logic was literally insane. I told her that she and Lucas had stolen my plans and used the venue that I had reserved without my permission, and that if they had debts, that was their problem, not mine. I tried to explain to her that I didn't owe them anything, that they had betrayed me in the worst possible way, but she kept screaming about the money and about how I had ruined her life by not warning her about Lucas's financial situation. Lucas was standing there not saying anything, basically being useless as always, and Samantha kept escalating, getting closer and closer to me while screaming, and I was backing up toward my bedroom because honestly I was starting to get scared. I had never seen Samantha this aggressive, and there was something in her eyes that told me the situation could get physical. And then it happened. Samantha literally slapped me. Hard. She hit me in the face with all her strength, and I just stood there in shock for a second, touching my cheek that was burning horribly. Lucas screamed something like, "Samantha, no," and started backing toward the door, basically fleeing from the situation he had helped create. I recovered my composure enough to push Samantha away from me and ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and grabbed my phone. I could hear Samantha pounding on the door, screaming more things about money. And then I heard the front door open and close, so I assumed Lucas had left, leaving her there alone. I called the police immediately and told them that someone had entered my house without permission and had physically assaulted me. The cops arrived in like 10 minutes, and by then Samantha was still in my living room. She hadn't left. She was just sitting there on my couch like she had every right to be there. The officers knocked on the door. I came out of my bedroom, opened it, and explained the whole situation to them. Samantha tried to act like she was the victim, saying I owed her money and she was just trying to get it back. But when the cops asked her for evidence of any debt or contract, she obviously had nothing. I showed them the red mark on my face where she had hit me, explained that she had broken into my house without invitation, and the officers ended up arresting her for assault and trespassing. As they were taking her away in handcuffs, she was screaming at me that I was going to pay for this, that my mom was going to make me regret it. A whole dramatic scene that my neighbors probably saw completely from their windows. Like an hour after they took Samantha away, my phone rings from a number I hadn't blocked, and it turns out to be Beverly calling from someone else's phone. I answer because I'm an idiot, and she immediately starts screaming at me again, saying how dare I have Samantha arrested, that I was a daughter from hell, that she should never have had me, that Joseph was right to leave us, because I was probably so horrible even as a baby that he couldn't stand it. And something in me finally broke. After years of putting up with her favoritism, her emotional abuse, her constant rejection, after discovering that she had actively orchestrated the destruction of my engagement to favor Samantha, after everything that had happened in the last few weeks, I just couldn't anymore. I told Beverly, in the calmest voice I could manage, that if she or Samantha or Lucas approached me again, I was going to get a restraining order against all three, that I was going to talk to a lawyer about, filing additional charges for everything they had done, and that she had been a horrible mother my entire life, and that I had tried to have a relationship with her despite that, but it was over, that I didn't want to see her, talk to her, or know anything about her ever again. Beverly went quiet for a moment, which was weird because she always has something to say, and then she started crying. Not manipulative crying, but like real crying of shock, like she had never imagined I would actually cut her out of my life. She started saying she was my mother, that I couldn't do this to her, but I simply told her that she stopped being my mother the day she decided Samantha was more important than her own daughter, and I hung up on her. It's been like 2 months since all that. Samantha is facing assault charges. I think she's going to have to do community service or something. I'm not very sure of all the legal details because honestly I've tried not to think about it too much. Lucas, apparently, is still married to her because divorce costs money that neither of them has. So they're basically trapped in a miserable marriage where she blames him for their financial situation and he probably regrets every decision he made in the last 6 months. Beverly has tried to contact me several times through relatives and acquaintances, leaving messages where sometimes she apologizes and sometimes she blames me for everything, depending on her mood of the day, I guess. I've blocked every number she uses to try to call me, and I've made it very clear with extended family that I don't want to know anything about her. Some relatives think I'm being too harsh, that she's my mother and I should forgive her, but honestly, I haven't told them half of what she did during my childhood, so they don't have the full picture. As for me, I'm in therapy now because this whole situation made me realize I have like 30 years of unresolved issues related to my mother's rejection and my need to seek validation in the wrong places, like in a relationship with a guy who clearly was only with me for my money. I'm working on that. I also got a raise at work last month, which is ironic because while my personal life was a total disaster, my professional life was thriving. Last week, I was at the supermarket buying stuff for dinner, and I saw Lucas in the distance, in another aisle. He saw me too, and literally turned around and went in the opposite direction as fast as he could without running. And I just stood there thinking that a year ago I was planning to spend the rest of my life with that guy, and now he was fleeing from me in the cereal aisle like I was a monster. I don't know if I'll ever fully understand why my mom hated me so much that she was willing to destroy my life to make the neighbor's daughter happy. I don't know if I'll ever fully process the fact that the person who should have protected and loved me unconditionally was the one who orchestrated the worst betrayal I've ever experienced. But what I do know is that I'm better off without them. Without any of them. And maybe that's enough for now.